Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Jai Hari Nam Sankirtana ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, BhishmaPanchaka Part1 ki Jai, Nantakoti Vaishnavinda ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Jnana
Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhambitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Paramami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tirunamine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. So nice to be back. Very blissful trip to Sri Vrindavan Dham, the most holiest of holiest places. It is a very wonderful place to be during this month of Kartik. It is a wonderful place to be in all times, but it is especially wonderful during this month of Kartik. And pray that someday we all can go to Sri Vrindavan Dham during this Kartik month, or at any time. It's a very inspiring place to be in association with so many wonderful and exalted Vaishnavas. It's an inspiring opportunity and also an humbling opportunity. An opportunity to see we have lots of work to do in our devotional life. But also very inspiring because to see the great bliss, realizations and happiness that the very advanced devotees experience in their devotional life is inspiring to all of us. So, it was nice. It's also nice to be back at the whole of Shri Radha Kunj Vihari. Just not different than Shri Vrindavan Dham. We say that, but do we believe it? Do we feel it? That's the question. Someday we'll feel it, but it is actually true. So today, I thought we'll discuss this passing away of Bhisma Dev in the presence of Lord Krishna. This is the BhishmaPanchaka time, the 5 days in which Lord Bhishma is performing this pastime. And like all pastimes, there are great, great instructions for us. They also hopefully will clear up some misconceptions we may have, some ideas that may bewilder us or perplex us. So, we'll discuss this today, maybe in an overview fashion, and then on Friday we'll take a couple pieces of it and discuss in more detail. So, this is narrated in the 9th chapter of the 1st canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, in Srimad Bhagavatam, Sutta Goswami is explaining that begins and opens the chapter. And the chapter again is entitled The Passing Away of Bhishma Dev in the Presence of Lord Krishna. So we'll read the first verse, the purport, and then have some discussion. Sutta Goswami said, being afraid of having killed so many subjects on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Maharaj Yudhishthira went to the scene of the massacre. There, Bhishma Dev was lying on a bed of arrows, about to pass away. So, the purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. In this 9th chapter, as it is willed by Lord Sri Krishna, Bhishma Dev will impart instructions to King Yudhishthira on the subject of occupational duties. Bhishma Dev will also offer his last prayer to the Lord on the verge of passing away from this mortal world, and thus become liberated from the bondage of further material engagements. Bhishma Dev was endowed with the power of leaving his material body at his will, and his lying down on the bed of arrows was his own choice. This passing away of the great warrior attracted the attention of all the contemporary elites and of all the assembled there to show their feelings of love, respect, and affection for the great soul. So again, the verse says, Sutta Goswami said, being afraid for having killed so many subjects on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Maharaj Yudhishthira went to the scene of the massacre. There Bhishma Dev was lying on a bed of arrows, about to pass away. So, we'll cover a couple of things today. We'll cover some misconceptions about the position of Lord Bhishma Dev and some of his activities. Because if we observe from a mundane perspective or our own material understandings, we may become bewildered by certain activities of Bhishma Dev. Like why he fought on one side versus the other, why he actually pierced the body of Krishna with arrows, and why he took a vow to make Krishna break his vow. Why he did these things. Was it out of inimical feelings or some deeper reason? So we'll discuss some of these misconceptions. And what we'll see is the extreme devotion and purity of Bhishma Pita's love for Krishna. So that is going to be the punchline. So anytime we interpret some of these activities, we have some, not sure, we should remember. Bhishma Pita's love for Lord Sri Krishna is unflinching, unrelenting, and uninterrupted. So this was not a temporary lapse of judgment. So we'll discuss that. And we're going to discuss the topic. Everybody braced themselves. We're going to discuss the perfection of dying. Nobody wants to talk about the perfection of dying. Everyone wants to talk about the perfection of living. Well, by perfect living, one will achieve the perfection of dying. And Bhishma Dev gives us and shows us the absolute perfection of how one should leave their body. Death is inevitable. We might as well prepare for it. We might as well try to do it well. If we want to do so many things well, right? Mundane things. I want to be a really good movie watcher. I want to be able to go to a party and talk about all the movies, quote lines, sing out some of the songs. That's a really good movie watcher. I want to be really good at eating idlis. I want to be really good at so many things. Well, since we know that death is inevitable, let us see how Bhishma Dev is showing us the perfection of how to perform this inevitable activity. And we'll see that leaving this material body is actually the beginning of our real life if we close up shop, pack our bags, and go back home where we came from. Let this be our last material body, and let us begin our real life in the spiritual world with a spiritual body in loving relationship with Krishna. So that is what we'll see, how Bhishma Dev walks us through this path in a very wonderful way. So this 9th chapter has many, many nice verses. We're just going to skim the surface, and maybe we'll read some more of the verses. So as this verse speaks about, this scene is taking place on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And we know the battlefield of Kurukshetra. At first, Kurukshetra was a place of great pilgrimage and a site of religious activities endowed by the austerities of King Kuru. And then it became the place in which Lord Krishna scripted in his drama of the Mahabharata this epic battle. And we know this epic battle was crafted in a way to bring all of our attention, our focused attention to the Bhagavad Gita. What Krishna was going to speak to Arjuna when Arjuna asked Krishna, please bring the chariot to the middle of both armies. So that was the climax of the whole epic. And so now we are after the battle has taken place. And we know at that time when Lord Krishna drove the chariot in front, one of the things that perplexed Arjuna was how he could face in battle Bhishma. Grandsire Bhishma, how I could even think to even raise my bow, let alone release an arrow at Bhishma. So, and we know through the battle many interesting activities took place. We'll discuss some of those today. So the scene is after the battle has taken place. As this first verse says, a great massacre, the scene of a massacre. It was a very bloody war. But we have to remember, everything Krishna arranges is perfect. And so Maharaj Yudhishthira was brought to this site. He came to the site by the will of Lord Krishna. Because at that time, Bhishma Pita was, at that point, lying on a bed of arrows. His body pierced with arrows. He was given the benediction by his father that he could choose when he would leave. No one could force that upon him. But that death would come at his choosing. We'll see how that plays a very important role in Bhishma Dev's process of leaving this world in a little bit. But that was the great benediction Bhishma Dev had. So he was lying upon these arrows. And at this scene, Krishna comes with Maharaj Yudhishthira and the Pandavas in a very elaborate way, a very grand way. And there's a reason for that. Krishna wanted to give Bhishma Dev some happiness, seeing who were most dear to Bhishma Dev? The Pandavas. And so seeing them coming in a very elaborate way was part of Krishna's arrangement. Also assembled here, which gives us some understanding of the importance of this event, were all of the great sages, rishis, and spiritual personalities of that era. Who was there? Vyasadeva, Narada Muni, So many wonderful personalities. Gautama Rishi, Angira, so many are described here. Wonderful one. All these great sages. Vashishta was there. And they were gathered here. The devatas, the demigods were gathered to see and witness what was going to transpire. So why they would all come? Just to hang out? Pass time? Something great must about to be happened. Something great must be coming. Something very significant. Significant in the practice of our devotional life. Otherwise, why these great sages would come? Narada Muni has one business, that is preaching. So something spectacular, not in spectacular fireworks fashion, spectacular in invoking devotion in the heart of all, must be about to happen. And so these great sages had assembled there. And most of all, who had come? Lord Krishna himself. The Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead came to this site. Why? He must also have some great reasons. And we'll see the ultimate reason he came was to fulfill the desire of Lord Bhishma. To fulfill the desire of Bhishma Pita, who understood how to perfectly leave this world. And we'll see how we can also call the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the exact same way, if we desire, if we make a plan. And if not, it won't happen. So Bhishma Dev, was born the son of a great king. Who was Bhishma Dev's father? Shantanu. And he was trained in the arts of fighting, of the Kshatriya skills by Lord Parshuram, an avatar of Krishna himself. Probably a pretty good Kshatriya at that point. He was the world's best. He was indefeatable. He was trained in all the Vedic sciences, all the rules and regulations, scriptures, how to be the most perfect Kshatriya, guided by Vedic principles. He took a lifelong vow of celibacy and performing some pastimes. As I mentioned earlier, he was given this gift, this benediction by his father. You could think, what benedictions a father would give? Money, nice education, nice spouse, many healthy children, maybe a nice BMW. What kind of benediction his father gave that says, you can plan out your own departure from this world? We'll see how that actually is the greatest of benedictions one can get, if one has knowledge of how to use it. Anything we get in life that has value, if we don't know how to use it, it can become dangerous. Weapons in the hands of an unscrupulous person leads to disaster. Weapons in the hands of a very well-trained person can lead to protection of society. So, Bhishma Pita had great understanding of how to use this benediction. Lord Bhishma Dev is one of the 12 Mahajans. Srimad Bhagavatam explains that there are 12 great personalities who have one single mission, and that is to bring as many people to the path of pure devotional service, to bring them to the understanding of how and why one should surrender to the Supreme Personality of God. Who are these 12 Mahajans? They are the likes of Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Prahlad Maharaj, Narada Muni, Vyasadeva, King Jana, Bali Maharaj, Swayambhavu Manu, the 4 Kumaras, Yamaraj, Bhishma Pita. sure I missed one or two. But this is the status of Bhishma Pita. He's one of the 12 anointed personalities. And what is his great qualification for preaching the practice of devotional service and surrender to Krishna? He has learned as Krishna is instructed. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarsa viduhu sakala neha mahata yoga nashta parantapa. This transcendental knowledge must come in disciplic succession. This is not the mental speculations of these great personalities. No, this is the knowledge that comes from the Supreme Lord Himself and has been passed down in bona fide disciplic succession. So Bhishma Pita is one of these great personalities, one of the great Mahajans. And so we go back to the scene, and he is lying on a bed of arrows in Kurukshetra. And so we have to rewind the clock a little bit and go back to take an understanding. Let's solve one of the misconceptions that we have. Is that Bhishma Pita, during the battle or before the battle, he had to pick sides. And which side he chose to be on? The sides of Duryodhana, the Kauravas. And from an external perspective, we can say that one has an obligation to reciprocate with another. So if one is providing me maintenance and support, then I must not abandon what they have given me. So Duryodhana and the Kauravas were giving support, shelter, food, clothing to Bhishma Pita. So from that perspective, Bhishma Pita, we can say, was reciprocating according to etiquette. Right? Don't bite the hand that feeds you. Let's say in the English saying, that's a proverb, I think it's English. Right? So in one way we can say that. But then how do we reconcile? Krishna says, Sarva dharmam parityaja. Ma'amekam. He says, give up everything and you surrender to me. How is Duryodhana the protector? Krishna says, Bhuktaram yagnatapasam sarva loka maheshwaram surdam sarva bhutanam. He says, I am your well-wisher. I preserve what you have. Provide what you don't have. So then how Bhishma Pita could surrender to the protection of Duryodhana when they had the opportunity to surrender to the protection of Krishna? We know when we surrender to Krishna, all other duties become fulfilled. Whatever debts we have in society, whatever debts we have to all the devatas who are facilitating our existence, they are all settled when we Sarva dharmam parityaja. Mam ekam. Just Krishna. They're all settled. How could one of the 12 Mahajans have forgotten this principle? You all know this principle. How Bhishma Pita could have forgotten? Did he forget? No. Bhishma Pita, let's see how strong the purity of his devotion is. Srila Prabhupada explains in the purports to one of the verses that Bhishma Pita willingly took the side of Duryodhana for the pleasure of Krishna. Now, what pleasure Krishna could get by having Bhishma Pita on the other side? Krishna was trying to make a point that no one can win in opposition of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No matter how strong we may be, no matter how intelligent we may be, no matter how much wealth I may acquire, how much beauty I may have, I cannot win my battle with the material world until I come to the side of our beloved Father, Lord Krishna. So what Krishna did, he put the most powerful personality, trained by his own avatar, on the opposite side. One who was indefeatable. Because if they had weaker, one say, well, if they had a stronger army, they could have beat Krishna. Krishna wanted to remove all of the irrational logic that we may try to present. Because Maya tries to find one little gap, one rationalization of why this isn't the case. So Krishna said to Bhishma Pita, by you taking the side of Duryodhana and taking defeat, it will be proved conclusively one can never win on the other side of the Supreme Lord. Now, Bhishma Pita happily took this position. And what was the consequence of him taking this position? Great criticism. His fame, his reputation was tarnished. People were commenting how he stood silent, desperate for a plate of food, while Draupadi was being disrobed. He knew for years to come, the misinformed would criticize him. His character would be questioned. His fame would be tainted. But he didn't care. Because what was his single goal? Pleasing Krishna. Anyabhilashita sunyam gyanakamari navatam anukulina Krishna anushilanam bhaktir uttama. This highest bhakti, pure devotion, no desires from the self. Nothing. Anyabhilashita. No desires. The only desire is to please Krishna. And if pleasing Krishna for Bhishma Pita meant him taking the side of who he knew was wrong, even that he was willing to do. That is the position of Bhishma Pita. So let us not think, oh, he temporarily was swooned by nice gulab jamuns and rasgullas at the house of Duryodhana, and so he went there. Let us not be so foolish. No. He was enacting the will and desire of the Supreme Lord. And that is a sign of pure devotion. What Krishna wants, his pure devotees enthusiastically do. Setting aside all implications for oneself. And how one can do that? When they have full, unflinching faith in the love, protection, and perfection of Krishna's plans. Krishna's plan is perfect. We don't see it. We wonder, why? But Krishna's plan is perfect. If this is what Krishna wants, it must have the best outcome. But that takes some faith. Krishna's love for us is unflinching. He would never put me in a situation that would be bad for me. That was the mindset of Bhishma Pita. So he went and did it. So his taking sides of Duryodhana was not a temporary lapse of judgment. It was perfection of his consciousness, fulfilling the desire of the Supreme Lord. And the Lord was not being willy-nilly. He wanted to solve in all of our hearts, once and for all, join the side of Krishna. It is the eternal winning side. So, we'll talk about the fight in a minute, the battle. The meeting of Yudhishthira Maharaj. So when Yudhishthira Maharaj came to see Bhishma Pita, Yudhishthira Maharaj was very moved and upset, disturbed by the great massacre that had taken place on the battlefield. He was not, woohoo, we won, I'm now the unrivaled ruler of the world. That is a cause for celebration. But why Yudhishthira Maharaj was the perfect ruler? Because he was the reluctant ruler. He was not the eager ruler to satisfy one need for power, fame, prestige, position. He was the reluctant ruler who was ruling out of duty. And he was not the I know how to rule. He went to Bhishma Pita to understand how now to perform his duty of ruling the kingdom. This is what great leaders do. Unfortunately, we do not have such great leaders in society today, and the consequence is also very clear. The status of society. When Bhishma Pita saw the mood of Yudhishthira Maharaj, though he came in a very grand way, he could see he was not very happy. And so he tries to uplift his mood immediately by telling Bhishma Pita, what you went through and what the Pandavas went through was unthinkable. You suffered so much tragedy. He's trying to say, what happened here is nothing compared to what you went through, Yudhishthira Maharaj. You are great. He's trying to bring it. And then he explains to him, I'm very much summarizing, there's a lot of nice detail in these verses. Please read this 9th chapter over the next 4 days. It's very sweet. Very short read. But he says that we can never understand Krishna's plan. But we should understand Krishna's plan is perfect. The great yogis and ascetics try for millions of years and lifetimes to understand. But the devotees of Krishna have firm faith that Krishna is my protector, my well-wisher. When he says Surdam Sarva Bhutanam in the Bhagavad Gita, they take that with full confidence at face value. So Yudhishthira Maharaj, yes, the travesties occurred. By the force of time, things are going to happen. The time is non-different than Krishna's own energy. So is Krishna's will. Take it at that. It's trying to pacify. Now you can see the consciousness of Bhishma Pita. He is lying on a bed of arrows. That is not lying like on a nice fluffy mattress. It is a painful situation. He is on the verge of death. Yet he is so expertly receiving all these great personalities who've come to see him. He is so composed emotionally that he's able to render such eloquent, perfect instructions to Yudhishthira Maharaj. How one is able to do that? If our belly is a little empty, we are completely a mess. We are disheveled. If we've had 1 hour less sleep than normal, we cannot tolerate the slightest inconvenience. But see where Bhishma Pita is. This is because he had removed himself from this understanding, I am this body. He was on a pure transcendental plane. Yes, there was pain, but it was not felt. He was fully in bliss in this process of the perfection of leaving this body. So this is how he began to instruct. We won't go into the instructions today, but he gave 9 instructions of how to live a human life. Don't lie, don't cheat, how to use your wealth in charity, how to be tolerant, how to support your subordinates and servants. Basically, very nice moral principles. And he gave some further instructions. And he spoke to Yudhishthira Maharaj for 5 days on the process of ruling to get him ready for the duties at hand. So, now let's rewind the clock again to this battle. This battle is very intriguing between Bhishma Pita and Krishna. Now, we see an inimical mood between Bhishma Pita and Krishna. But if there was an inimical mood, why Krishna would come at the time of his departure, and why Bhishma Pita would be praying for the Lord to come. There must be something more to the story that we are missing. So just like Bhishma Pita picking the sides of Duryodhana, there's more to the story. Let us understand and complete the story on why Bhishma Pita chose to fight with Krishna. That doesn't seem sarva dharma prityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. Doesn't seem. So we know in the story of Mahabharata, Duryodhana became a little upset that Bhishma Pita was not giving his full effort in the battle. At least he felt that way. Clearly, Bhishma Pita had a very soft place in his heart for the Pandavas. So Duryodhana became frustrated as he began to see the battle was slipping away from him. So he chastised and spoke very aggressively. And Bhishma Pita, being a Kshatriya, do not insult a Kshatriya. Bad idea. It's like provoking a lion. And Bhishma became very enraged. And he took a vow that tomorrow I will kill all the Pandavas with these 5 arrows. And as you know, Duryodhana was protecting those arrows. And Krishna's plan is perfect. He sent Arjuna, and on a scheme, Duryodhana had to give those arrows to Arjuna. We won't go through all the details, but it's a nice story. So, upon Duryodhana losing those arrows, Bhishma Pita held his vow and said, I will either kill Arjuna or I will make Krishna pick up a weapon in battle. That is how valiantly I will fight tomorrow. So Bhishma Pita, the next day, began to fight very ferociously. He had separated Krishna and Arjuna, which is a dangerous and a great tactic in battle. Divided we are weak, together we are strong. And Arjuna was on the verge of being destroyed. He was severely wounded. Krishna was receiving arrows, and his body was being pierced. And at the point where there was no hope, Arjuna was about to leave. Then Krishna picked up the wheel of the chariot and in a great rage ran with full force, so much so that he dropped the upper cloth of his garment and he ran at Bhishma Pita. So before we get to the punchline of that, why this happened? Bhishma Pita had one desire. He had 2 desires actually. First, he wanted to prove the extent to which Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, will go to protect his devotee. By Bhishma Pita taking this battle, he wanted to show that Krishna is even willing to break his own promise. He is willing to be called a cheater and a liar and whatever else may come to protect his devotee Arjuna. The expanse of love the Supreme Lord has for each and every one of us is incomprehensible to us. We can't even begin to contemplate it. But Bhishma Pita wanted to give us a glimpse into that. That Krishna was willing to even break his own word to protect his beloved devotee. And Bhishma Pita wanted to show that. The second thing Bhishma Pita wanted to experience. Bhishma Pita is a warrior. And we know Krishna reciprocates according to the degree of our surrender. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajamyaham. He says that according to how my devotees surrender, I surrender and reciprocate accordingly. So Bhishma Pita, being a warrior, also wanted to experience a specific rasa, a specific emotion of Krishna, which is of this chivalrous manner. This was not uncontrolled rage in our understanding. So when Bhishma Pita is shooting arrows, explained here in Srimad Bhagavatam, what were the arrows like? Painful piercings of the body? How many of you there were for Pushpa Abhishek? Over there? So you saw how the flowers were being offered to the deities. Let's compare that those arrows were like showering rose petals upon the body of the Lord. Krishna's body is completely spiritual. Our body is matter, and within it resides the spirit soul. Matter, spirit, matter, spirit. But when Krishna comes, everything is spirit. He is his body. Sachidananda Vigraha. Krishna says, 2nd chapter, spirit soul. The spirit cannot be cut by weapon, burned by fire, weathered by wind, wet by water. Nothing can happen to it. So how could some metal arrow pierce spirit? But how did it happen? Because Krishna allowed it to happen. He wanted to give this specific darshan to Bhishma Pita, who had a desire to see Krishna in this specific rasa. The wounds on the body were jewels decorating the form of his body, making it even more beautiful. Our mundane minds can't contemplate that. Just like when Lord Nrsimhadev wrapped the intestines of Hiranyakashipu on his neck, we think gross. But actually to the devotee, they see how it was decorating, because everything is absolute on Krishna. Meaning the darshan of him smiling sweetly at Mother Yashoda is as sweet as this mood of rage, this chivalrous anger. Non-different. So the piercings on his body were like decorations. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains in a very deep way. Our minds cannot even contemplate this. It goes to the wrong place. But it's in Srimad Bhagavatam, so we'll discuss it. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that this piercing of the body of Krishna is like a lover who bites her beloved. That is not creating pain. That is intensifying the love. This shooting of the arrows of Bhishma Pita was intensifying the love between Krishna and Bhishma Pita. So to see this darshan, this specific mood, because as soon as Krishna picked up and ran, what did Bhishma Pita do? Sarva dharmam parityaja mamekam. Fully surrendered. He had obtained that transcendental, absolute. Our mundane minds see, oh, he's a coward and he fell down. Or Krishna is such a ras, he promised he wouldn't. And Krishna wanted to fulfill the words of his devotee. Now hear this. Bhishma Pita said, I will make Krishna pick up a weapon or Arjuna will be destroyed. Now the demons, when they try to trick Krishna, they always fail. When Hiranyakashipu said, I won't be killed in day or night, up or down, in or out, animal, human, he thought he had all his bases covered. And Lord Nrsimhadev proved no. Krishna could have very easily just brought an Antashesh and covered Arjuna, and he would have been fine. Krishna could have very easily blown and all the arrows would have scattered. Could he not? Lying on an Antashesh in a Karnadaksha ocean, he is manufacturing unlimited universes. How he could move a few arrows. He didn't have to pick up a weapon. He did not have to pick up a weapon. Why he picked up a weapon? To keep true the word of his great devotee, Bhishma Pita. He's willing to break his own word to preserve the word of his devotee. How much Krishna is willing to do for us? It's unimaginable. We say, that you follow the 4 regulative principles, you chant your japa, you do some service. Oh, how much I have to do. How much Krishna is doing for each and every one of us. We cannot even perceive. We cannot even begin to understand. But by seeing this pastime, we get a little glimpse that to protect Bhishma Pita's word, he is willing to forego even his own. So many other ways he could have protected Arjuna. But he chose to protect Arjuna in a way that would show his love for his devotee, Arjuna, and show his love for his devotee, Bhishma Pita. This is the perfection of Krishna's plan. And the only way for us to understand this is to surrender to the commentaries and discussions of our great acharyas. Because if we surrender to our own mental concoctions, we'll be lost forever. And by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, he has so perfectly presented this knowledge. And this simple chapter 9, so much beautiful content is there. But it's there if we take to it. Then it has value. So please read the Srimad Bhagavatam. What time is it? 8:30. We didn't even get to the dying part. Maybe some of you are happy. Okay, we'll touch on this, and maybe on Friday we'll pick up more of this piece of it.
Before you go ahead, question. So you are saying that when Bhishma Pita was piercing the arrow, it was like a flower or something, right? But that was Krishna's thing. But like Bhishma Pita was piercing the arrow with the rage, with the thing that like he's fighting, right? Like his consciousness is
his consciousness is pure. His consciousness was, let me decorate the body of the Lord as we might decorate the body of the Lord with flowers or jewels. He was decorating the body of Krishna with these piercings, these bruises.
Even his consciousness while piercing.
He was painting the Lord. We may paint the Lord with beautiful different colors. He was painting the body of the Lord with these piercings. Because Krishna's moods are all absolute. What does that mean? They're all on the same plane. There's no hierarchy. There's a little nuance to that, but we won't get into it. But his mood was not, he was not in rage. He was fully on a plan. And that's, again, it becomes difficult for us to digest and understand because we try to relate. If I cut my hand, it will not be beautiful. It will be grotesque. But again, this is illuminating the difference between us and the Supreme Lord. So, we talked in the beginning about the perfection of dying. Actually, it is the perfection of beginning our real life. At some point, we're going to leave this body. And the choice we have is whether we're going to take another material body or regain our spiritual body. That is up to us. And what Bhishma Pita shows is that given the benediction of being able to choose his own time and place and circumstance of leaving, if we were given that benediction, we would never leave. We would say 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes, and 5 more minutes would go on for eternity. Trying to make a comfortable place in this place of Dukhalayam and the Shashvatam. Driven by our Ahankara, false ego. We would think, tomorrow I'm going to unlock this happiness. We've been trying it for millions of lifetimes. But Bhishma Pita, being a self-realized soul, a pure devotee of the Lord, knew how to leave imperfection. And Krishna says in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the chapter is entitled Attaining the Supreme. Antakale chamameva smaram muktva kalevaram ya prayati samadbhavam yati nashtaya samshayaha. It says one, at the end of their life, quits their body thinking of me alone. at once achieves my eternal abode. So what did Bhishma Pitta want on his last days? What was his bucket list? Have one more rasgulla, one more fresh dosa, go see the Taj Mahal. He only wanted to be in the company of the Supreme Lord. He says, I've spent so much time doing all my occupational duties. Now let me forget all of that and just meditate on Krishna. Krishna, please stay within my vision. He's actually being very humble. A pure devotee of the Lord, Krishna was always in his mind, never leaving. But out of humility, he was saying that I'm not qualified, I am not reliable to remember you at the time of death. So please be with me. There was no chance he was not going to remember Krishna at the time of leaving. But out of his humility, he's asking the Lord to be in his presence, to give him darshan. At some point, this test is going to come to us. Krishna says, Yam yam vapi smaram bhavam tejantante kalevaram. Whatever it is we think about at the time of death, that we achieve. The question is easy. It's known ahead of time. But what is the catch? We don't know when the question is coming. Bhishma Pitta knew, but we don't know. Just like if a student knows from the teacher a pop quiz is coming, and here's the question. What does a good student do? From that day forward, prepares the answer, so that whenever the quiz comes, they're ready. From this day forward, we know what the question is. Whatever it is you desire, at the time of leaving this body, you'll achieve. Now the question is, when are we going to prepare for that question? Which is to desire the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the question. When will we become prepared? Because if we prepare today, as if it may happen at any moment, then what is the fear? I am not going to fear when I get to exchange this sweater for a new one. I will rejoice. Bhishma Pitta was rejoicing the opportunity to go back home where he came from, in the spiritual world. And so he gives many nice prayers, setting aside all the other things and focusing singularly on the Supreme Lord. And that is our goal. How, upon leaving this world, we can meditate fully on the Lord. And how to guarantee it happens? It begins to start meditating on the Lord today. 24/7. Not just during the 16 rounds of our japa, a couple hours in Bhakti Vriksha or at the temple. But to see our connectivity with the Lord in every step of our life. So there are many nice verses, but in the interest of time, we'll discuss them on Friday. Is that okay? Any comments or questions? I'm sure there are many questions. Yes.
Two questions. How his father is such a great giver benediction, like even he's like Parashram as a guru. He just won't understand who the father is. Great father gives such great benediction.
I don't have the full background of how the benediction came about, but great kings and saintly persons can give such benedictions. And King Shantanu was a very pious, wonderful king who had a great pedigree and great love for his child.
They are not like incarnation of Krishna or...
No, but Krishna bestows that. Krishna is the ultimate provider of all benedictions. No benediction can be given without the sanction of the Lord. Any benediction you get from any of the devatas, where it comes from? Bhoktaram yagna tapasam. All yagnas, the ultimate beneficiary is Krishna. Krishna bestowed because it was going to his pure devotee.
The second question, Bhishma, like how he perfection, like though he to satisfy Krishna, he was in the opposite side. But I'm not able to understand how he perfectly, the maybe in mundane thought, he may not be perfect. Right? Like he was in the opposite side.
No, he was perfectly situated on the opposite side. He was not temporarily lost. He willingly took that side. He had to play the role. He can't just take the side and be cheering on the Pandavas. Then Krishna's drama is not perfectly scripted. He has hired bad actors. Arjuna is not confused about I am not this body, I am spirit soul. Arjuna is not confused, I am the doer. Oh, Krishna, you're the doer? No, but Arjuna is playing a role of being confused. Bhishma Pita is playing a role for the pleasure of Krishna. But he plays it perfectly.
I'm saying that if you live perfectionally, then you will live perfectionally. How do you live perfectionly?
Anta kalechamam sma eva smanam anta kalechamam eva smanam muktva kalevaram. We have to smarna. Think of Krishna. Because if we think about Krishna at the time of leaving, we'll go to Krishna. If we think about our dog at the time of leaving, we may become a flea on the back of our dog. If we think about our house, our children, this, that, our job, that's where we'll go. Yum yum, vapi smaram bhavam. So, the perfection is to constantly think of Krishna. That's why the fundamental of all principles, smartavya, satatam vishnu, vishmartavyo, najatuchit, is to always remember Krishna and never forget him. Everything we do in devotional life, everything contained within Srimad Bhagavatam, all the scriptures, they should be servants to these two principles. Always remember Krishna and never forget him. But in purity, in pure devotional service, one doesn't even care about that as a means to go back home. One simply has so much pleasure and bliss in thinking and serving of the Lord that they don't even care where they may end up next. Another body in the spiritual world or a body in the hellish planet. As long as I can remember and serve the Supreme Lord. So how to come to that stage, it comes from sadhana. How did we come to the stage to be addicted to our movies and TVs and cricket? We practiced it. We watched and watched and watched and we became experts in it. So how to become addicted to Krishna? We have to practice strong sadhana. And strong sadhana starts with chanting of the holy names. It is the most purifying force. So we must take to our sadhana very seriously. Bhishma Pita became a great fighter because he took to the art of fighting very seriously. He was a great devotee because he took to his sadhana very seriously. We also must take to our sadhana very seriously. Any question?
Here is one question. Why do some pious people suffer during their death, the last days? Should it be considered it is the best for the devotees or just karma?
It's always according to Krishna's plan. Krishna says, I envy no one and I am partial to no one. So to those who are not his devotees, Krishna sanctions activities or results based on our input. That's karma, laws of karma. Whatever you do, you get back. So we may see a pious person now receiving some difficulty, but that difficulty is born not out of a lapse or an error, but born out of some prior actions we don't have vision of yet. That's the whole why do bad things happen to good people in 1 minute. But when a devotee goes through difficulty, and Bhishma Pita explains this, when a devotee goes through difficulty, that difficulty intensifies their love, surrender, and dedication to the Supreme Lord. So, devotees, the Pandavas went through unimaginable difficulties. Queen Kunti went through incredible difficulties. Right? But those, Srila Prabhupada, in modern day, He went through heart attacks on a boat. Things stolen from his first room. All kinds of things. But that difficulty drives one closer to Krishna. And Krishna knows. He knows when we can take it and when we cannot. He knows when not to break us. We have to be to that. So we cannot assess, nor should we try. But we should have faith in Krishna's plan.
So during the situation of Draupadi getting this wrong, the devotees have principle of saving the other devotees. When devotees is in some bad situation, other devotee has to help, has to protect them. So how to understand that situation?
Krishna did help.
But devotees from that side,
He had a role to play. He had his job to do. If he would have protected, then he would have taken the side of the Pandavas. And he would not have been able to then fight the war on the side of the Kauravas, and he would not have been able to then prove the point Krishna wanted to make, which was that no one can defeat Krishna. So he had to sit silent. We don't know what was turmoiling in his heart inside. We just see on the movie what was happening. But we don't know what was happening inside. And ultimately, BhishmaPanchaka knew Krishna will protect. Whatever protection I can do, Krishna can do billions times more. But you're right. The principle in devotion is that we should protect all devotees. But we protect all devotees, and so it's a nice point you're making. We should not see somebody struggling on the side of the road, oh, Krishna will protect. No, we must jump in and help out of being very compassionate. Because we're not put in that drama. We were not performing a higher activity. Right? It's okay? Yeah. See, these things come into our mindset. Right? We have dilemmas. If I do this activity or I do this, what to do. We got to go for the ultimate purpose, which is pleasing Krishna. So, me walking by somebody suffering is not going to please Krishna. I must help them. Me advancing my spiritual life at the expense of someone else, we always get in this question of family. If I become a devotee, can I leave my family, abandon my family? No, because that is our advancement in devotion at the expense of Krishna's other children. That will not please Krishna. BhishmaPanchaka standing silent at that event was part of Krishna's plan.
so you know that Krishna will come and protect.
He agreed to take this side at the request of Krishna. But again, unless we study the real intricate details, we'll consume, BhishmaPanchaka was, whatever, too dependent on his rasgullas, or was sleepy and fell asleep, or was a coward and could not speak up in front of doing. We'll come up with these nonsensical comments. That's what our mind does. It rationalizes things. It comes up with its own concoctions. That is why we have to go to Scripture and go to bona fide commentary. In Parampara. What qualified BhishmaPanchaka to be a Mahajan was his taking knowledge in Parampara. That's what qualifies our knowledge. Taking surrender of this is done. Take surrender of this. And it explains. Prabhupada gives all the explanations here. Yeah?
Krishna was always in the perfect consciousness throughout his life. Then why he has to go for the purification? Like in the death of arrows, he has to go for so many days. So why that purification has to happen?
He wasn't purifying. He was performing the activity, again, according to his own choosing, right? And that was a process by which he was instructing we may see why Krishna goes to Sandipani Muni for Gurukul. He already knows. So there are explanations of that being a purificatory rite, but it was already pure. Krishna already knew, but to set an example. But Bhishma Pita ultimately is lying on the bed of arrows, and he's establishing, many, many things there in that process. It's a very deep and involved. There's a lot of purport just on that aspect. But he's establishing the importance of separating the body from our position, and drawing the attention of these great personalities, and ultimately leaving in this way. So.
Why these last 4 days in Kartik month, it's called as BhishmaPanchaka,
Well, technically it's 5 days, but
okay.
this way the calendar works is 4 days, but it's Panchaka 5 days, because this pastime took place over 5 days. So this began and ends over 5 days, and they begin on the Ekadashi and ends on the last day of this month of Kartik. So that's why it's the 5 days.
5 days he's sharing the knowledge to Yudhishthira and the other.
He's speaking to Yudhishthira, all others are observing. And then he's, at the end, which we'll discuss, he's offering his prayers to Krishna as just before he leaves. And there in front of everyone he leaves. If you go to Kurukshetra, which I highly encourage all of you to do, you can go to this spot where this pastime took place. Very, very potent place. Very wonderful place. You can see the potency of this place. It's still there in Kurukshetra. Wonderful devotees in Kurukshetra who will show you all these wonderful places and pastimes. Comments or questions? Okay. So maybe we'll continue a little bit more of this on Friday. As we discussed this, Friday is the last day of Kartik Mas. So it's the last day of BhishmaPanchaka, and the last day of offering Gilam, but you can offer throughout the year if you like. So can we keep doing? Yes, of course. There's no limit. You can take your vows and continue them for the rest of the year. That is also no limits. But okay, thank you very much. Please forgive me if I misspoke anything. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki jai, Bhishma Pancha Mahotsav ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki jai. Chant some japa.